Someone's really good about admitting people.
It's me. I'm trying to click on so many things.
Todd, Taylor, welcome. We've got a couple note takers here. Pretty soon we're going to start attending meetings where it's only note takers. Nobody else is there. Everyone just goes back to their note takers.
There's an app for that, you know.
Michaela, do you want to get started right on time, or do you want to give people another minute or so to join?
I think we can get started. People are hopping in a timely fashion, so yeah, we can get it going.
Awesome. So welcome everyone. I'm Josh. This is the HubSpot user group for contract manufacturers. Technically East Coast, I guess, but if you're not on the East Coast or not in America, that's completely okay. I'm going to stop talking here now and turn it over to Michaela and the team. Just note you will get a survey after this is complete, so always appreciate survey responses so we know what was good, what was bad, what we could be doing better. But that's it from me. I'll turn it over. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. As you know, we're going to be talking a lot about Breeze AI. Zach and Vicky are your experts, so I will be quiet here shortly and let them talk. I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves now.
Hey everybody, my name is Zachary Ware. I'm an inbound education consultant here at P80. I've been with P80 for, my gosh, coming up on 6 years next month. In my tenure here, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of stuff, everything from base level SEO and PPC management and work through inbound strategy creation and implementation. And then for the past 12 to 18 months or so, somewhere in that ballpark, I've been really focused on a lot of more coaching support. So working with teams who want to take some of the inbound work internal, and then lots of HubSpot support as well and onboarding. So I've probably worked with quite a few people on the call today for at least something, whether it be marketing or HubSpot over the past couple of years.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in today. My name is Vicky Sunny, and I am a HubSpot solutions developer here at P80. I am relatively new to the P80 team, but have been using HubSpot for 10 years now. Was introduced originally to HubSpot while I was working at a manufacturer locally here in South Dakota. But about the last 4 years or so, I've been agency side and have really focused my time on client onboarding, implementation, and a little bit of RevOps as well.
Awesome. And so today we're going to go through tips and use cases that you need to know about HubSpot's Breeze AI. We're talking about everything from copilots to agents to Breeze Intelligence, AI in additional HubSpot tools, and then there'll be some time at the end for questions that you can throw at Vicky and Zach, and they will field. So we'll let them get going.
So before we get into all the good stuff, before we start talking about how Copilot works, what you can start using it for, same thing with the agents and the Breeze Intelligence, I want to take a step back and first just introduce Breeze. If anybody isn't familiar, Breeze, in its simplest term, is simply HubSpot's umbrella term for their AI software. It encompasses the things that we're going to talk about today, like Copilot, agents, Breeze Intelligence, but also a lot of the other tools that you might have already used throughout your HubSpot ecosystem without knowing it. And I think HubSpot absolutely put it best with their own definition, go figure, that Breeze aims to give customer-facing teams all the AI tools that they could possibly need to boost their own productivity, scale growth, and unlock their own actionable insights. And we're going to be touching on each one of those points throughout this presentation.
Alrighty, so first up here, we were going to talk about Copilot. So Copilot is going to be like your virtual assistant right within HubSpot. You can ask a variety of questions or prompts to this Copilot chat widget, and it will do its best to give you accurate responses and answers to your questions. One thing to note, if you haven't seen Copilot, it is the link in the upper right corner of your HubSpot window, right next to your avatar. And if for some reason you're not seeing Copilot in your account as we sit today, you may want to check the AI settings in the back of your account. It is actually something that you need to toggle on if you want to utilize it for you and your team in HubSpot. Then there are a couple of different ways that we can interact with the Copilot. So if you already have a question or something in mind, you can freely type in questions and messages into the message widget. Or if you're not really quite sure what's possible or what Copilot can do, you can use one of 7 different prompts that are available within the chat widget. And so we'll walk through those 7 prompts here briefly today. First one up is to summarize records. So if we ask Copilot to summarize a particular contact or company or deal record, it will search the timeline activities and the pieces of data that it can find in the properties to give you a really good summary of what has happened for that particular record. It can also search articles or blogs or things like that too if you have pieces of content in your HubSpot account. But just a neat way to summarize and give you a brief summary of that information without you having to dig for it. The next one here is to generate assets. So HubSpot has the ability to generate lists, workflows, blogs, really nearly any asset within HubSpot. Copilot can give you a starting point. So in the case of the screenshots here on the screen, I asked Copilot to give me a list of contacts who've opted out of all of our email communications. Copilot came back with an example criteria for my list, and I confirmed that that was accurate. That was what I was looking for. And then it actually generated the list for me. So I could go into that draft list, and then if I did need to make any adjustments or edits to that particular list, I could do that. But really, Copilot did the heavy lifting for me. For researching records, we can also ask the Copilot to research certain companies in the HubSpot CRM. We could ask them to pull more information about potentially competitors or just other aspects or records in the system. One thing unique to the research prompt, if you are searching for records in your system, obviously it would pull that data from HubSpot. But it also, in some cases, would pull information from outside sources from HubSpot. So I did think that was kind of unique and interesting that it would go find what it can find for any given company that you're looking to research, even if it is outside of HubSpot. For reporting, I think that this is probably my favorite prompt so far in working with Copilot. You can ask it to give you a certain record count of records in your system, or ask it to generate a draft report that you're looking to create. So in this case, I asked it to give me a record count of deals that were closed this year. The Copilot answered my question. It gave me the number, but on the back end, it actually created the report as well. So I can go into that draft report, make any customizations or things that I want to do, and then hit save. So again, just kind of a nice way to save time and have HubSpot do that heavy lifting and heavy thinking for you without you having to do that. The next one here is adding an object. So you could be really anywhere within HubSpot. Maybe you're in blogs or website pages, and maybe you want to create a new record. Could be new contact or company record or deal, or maybe you want to log a note or a task on a specific record that already exists. Copilot is going to give you quick access to be able to do those types of actions in the chat widget without actually having to navigate to other places within the system. The next one here is HubSpot how-tos. So if you're like me, you probably open up a Google tab often to search Google to find HubSpot resources, knowledge base articles, HubSpot Academy content, and things like that. So with this prompt, we can actually do those searches right in Copilot. In some cases, it will give you actually step-by-step instructions on how to complete a certain task. In other cases, it might give you the knowledge base article and you don't have to go find it. Or in the case of the screenshot here today, I asked it to give me specifically HubSpot Academy videos for a certain topic. So in this case, it's just going to give me the video content that I could use or potentially share with our team. And the last one here is to help you prepare. So maybe you have upcoming meetings for today or tomorrow. We can ask Copilot to help you prep for that call, either from a contact or a company record. Copilot will do its best to pull in a summary of all of the activities or just different touch points and information that it has for that particular record, and provide that to you without you having to go search and dig for those pieces of information. And lastly here, the more that you work with Copilot, you might find that there are certain prompts or things that you really like and you are going to use day in and day out. So if you come across one of those prompts that you really like, you can star it, and that will add it to your favorite list. And that will be basically a quick guide or a shortcut to be able to use that prompt anytime that you want to. And then it's off to you, Zach, for agents.
All right. So what are agents in HubSpot? If you're familiar with agents in any other capacity, it's going to be very similar here. Agents in HubSpot are simply specialized pieces of AI software that help you to automate manual tasks so that you, your service team, your sales team, your marketing team, whomever it is in HubSpot, can focus on more of the strategic work, the stuff that's actually going to drive your pipeline and help you see longer-term success. The agents are here to help you to automate some of that more granular, meticulous work that you might have to take care of on a day in and day out basis. Currently in HubSpot, we have 4 key agents, and the agents that you may have access to are going to depend on the different hubs and tiers that you have access to. So for example, shipping right now in HubSpot, we have the social agent for anybody using Marketing Hub Pro and Enterprise, the prospecting agent for any users with Sales Pro or Enterprise, customer agent for Service Pro and Enterprise users, and then the content agent for Content Hub Pro and Enterprise. And we're going to dive into each one of these here now. So starting with the social agent, as I'm sure you could guess, it's going to help your marketing team manage social media. And it's going to do more than just give you a place to schedule posts like the social media tool in HubSpot has been for so long. Instead, the social agents are going to go through and based on your specific marketing goals, your audience, the brand voice that you have set, and the current usage of your social media accounts, help you to create posts that are going to drive engagement. Currently, this is going to work with LinkedIn, X/Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Some key aspects of the social agent here. I have it broken down into 3 things. It's going to function semi-autonomously, meaning that it's going to start making recommendations based off of what it analyzes, based off of the steps, the cues that you give it. It's never just going to go and start publishing on your behalf without express permission to at some point in the future. Anything that it creates, it's going to send into a review environment for you, your marketing team, whomever it is, to start making the proper edits to it, right? So essentially the way that it does this is it analyzes a handful of different things. Things that your marketing team are already analyzing, plus a whole bunch of other variables that would just be otherwise extremely time consuming and difficult to analyze with any level of accuracy. So it's going to look at your past social performance, current social performance, and future social performance as well, based on what it drives out of its own tool. So it's going to look at the different social platforms that you're posting to, the types of posts that you make to each platform, the audiences that are engaging with those posts, the time of day, the days of the week, months of the year that most posts drive different levels of engagement. It's going to look at specific company details, so your company details that you feed it. So it's when it's generating posts, not hallucinating, not creating anything that isn't factual. It's going to look at the audiences that you have set to target directly in HubSpot and through your social platforms. It's going to look at industry insights unique to your specific industry and your target industries. And then obviously it's going to adhere to marketing best practices, which, as we know, change constantly too. Overall, though, the goal of this tool is just to help your team create social posts that are going to scale and drive engagement long term. going to help you start to get the basis in place so that your team can make the proper edits, get everything posted and scheduled correctly. Next up, we have the prospecting agent available with Sales Pro and Enterprise. So the prospecting agent helps sales teams, sales managers, sales users research and execute personalized outreach for prospects that you have currently in your CRM. So this gets broken down into 3 key things that we've been able to identify: the agent profile, sources and trainings, and the mode. So in short, the who and the how, the what and the when. The agent profile, so the who and the how, is going to be who in your team is it coming from, and then what's the specific tone that you want to adhere to? How does that specific salesperson typically engage with people via email? Sources and trainings, you can see I have listed here in the center screenshot. Where is it going to be pulling its information from? So in our example here, we have it set to pull from the P80 domain. It also, not pictured underneath this, we have a list of questions that we can opt to fill out or leave blank. It just lends more information to this, more credibility to it whenever it generates emails on your behalf to outreach to people. We can set custom calls to action. So ultimately, if somebody receives one of these emails from us, what goal do we want them to take? What action do we want them to take? And then email guidance is just you defining when it creates these emails, what should it be doing with them? How long should the emails be? How they should be structured? What email 1 should be versus email 2 versus email 3? And then the mode is the autonomy level. Do we want this to function semi-autonomously, just like the social agent, where it's going to start making recommendations for emails? Or has it gotten to the point now where we feel comfortable letting it function fully autonomously for us, doing outreach on our behalf without our own oversight? So the way that it works is broken just down into 3 steps. I've oversimplified the steps here just a little bit for the sake of our meeting today, but just know that it really can be this simple with an asterisk. Step 1, enroll a contact after we have the previous slide's information put in. You can see here in a screenshot, we're opting to manually enroll a contact. You can also manually enroll companies or set up automated enrollment, though I'm willing to venture a guess that anybody on the call who hasn't used this yet would probably want to manually enroll contacts to start, unless you feel very confident in what HubSpot's developed at this point. You just want to full send it. Step 2 is confirm the guide rails. So in the center screenshot here, how many emails is it going to be sending on your behalf, almost like a sequences tool? What tone should it be adhering to? The guide rails that we have set in the previous slide as well. What happens after somebody engages? What's the unenrollment criteria for this? I don't know if you can read it in the screenshot there, but it's essentially saying that whenever somebody replies to an email or books a meeting, to stop outreach, because the whole point of this is to establish a connection with a contact. It doesn't make sense to continually reach out in an automated fashion saying, hey, let's connect, if you've already established that connection with somebody. And then step 3, probably the easiest step, hit start enrolling. Next up, we've got the customer agent here. So the customer agent is just going to answer questions and chat flows in HubSpot based on the different content that you have set. So if you're familiar with the legacy chatbots tool, it's very similar to that, but instead of having to come up with complex logic branches based on different scenarios or different questions that people might ask, different options somebody might choose, it's almost like they're speaking to just any other LLM. So think like ChatGPT, Bard, or something else like that. Setup for the content agent, or sorry, for the customer agent is pretty straightforward. Out of the box, your agent's name is Luma. You're you're encouraged to edit the name a little bit, give it your own custom avatar, whether that's an avatar unique to this chatbot to give it personality, whether it's a company avatar or something else. Choose the role, so customer support here in our example, and then give it a personality. I like this one to be friendly. So you give it the name, role, personality, and then the coolest part here, step 2, perhaps the biggest part, is that we get to give it knowledge. We get to teach Luma, or whatever you call your customer agent, what it needs to know. We can do that by feeding it our own website pages, the entire domain, internal or external facing knowledge base articles, blogs, news articles, PDFs, sales documents, text specifications. You name it, it can analyze it, just like you're feeding documents to a tool like ChatGPT to internalize and answer your own questions. Now we're doing that in a customer-facing way. Step 3 is really step 2.5 here. Always, always, always make sure that you test this stuff before sending it live. These tools are not infallible. They're still in beta. So before moving on to step 4 and step 5, setting it live, make sure, please, you test it. There's going to be a testing widget when you set up your customer agent. Step 4 is going to be customize what happens when a handoff needs to happen. So as we know, chatbots aren't perfect. They can answer a lot of very general questions, maybe some sales questions, specifications, something like that. But people want to speak to another person, not always to an AI agent. So we get to specify how that handoff looks. If a specific topic is being discussed, maybe it needs to route to a specific representative on your side. You can also have it configured so that if somebody just asks to speak to a representative or speak to a rep, a sales agent, something like that, it just automatically hands off as well. So there's very little friction between the customer on your site and how they're engaging with that bot. And then finally, you have to assign it to a channel, something like your website in the chat flow, or something like Facebook Messenger, so that people can begin interacting with it. Last but certainly not least, I think this houses some of my absolute favorite tools of all time in HubSpot so far, is the content agent. The content agent is going to generate landing pages, podcasts, case studies, blogs, news articles, you name it. It can help you generate it using your specific brand voice and your own CRM data. So to showcase this, obviously we can't walk through creating a blog post, then a news article, then a landing page, and everything else. We just simply don't have time to do that today. If that's something that maybe you want to explore, shoot me an email after this. We can chat. But here, a quick example, we're going to go through and create a blog post together, edit it, and get it ready to set live. So step 1 in the content agent, we can go through the blog post outline. You can see in the top right corner, the keyword mobile optimization. That's the keyword that I fed this tool. So I'm saying, I want to focus on mobile optimization. It's going to be targeting non-technical marketers. This is going to be all about SEO. It's generated the title for me, Mastering Mobile Optimization, a non-tech marketer's guide. It generated the description for me. I opted to have it include an image as well. You can omit this if you'd like. It even generated the image description based on the other information that I fed it. Now, the really cool part, you can see the paragraph headers up underneath that. We can have up to 10 paragraph headers here. And then we can add talking points. We can add specific verbiage that we want to see used, that we want to see omitted, specific keywords. So your secondary, tertiary keywords, your LSI or latent semantic indicating keywords, we can add all that information here. So if you're currently using something like ChatGPT or Gemini or some other LLM to help you generate very general blog posts, HubSpot can help you do it with your own brand voice that it analyzes based on your writing samples that you feed it. Once we have all this stuff set, Michaela, you can hit next, generate blog post, hit next one more time for me. It's going to think for a second, and then we're given something like this. So it's going to take us directly into our blog post editor in HubSpot. You can see this super creepy image of a guy analyzing something on his phone. This might be an instance where I omit to using this specific image and I want to use my own, but hey, at least it gave it a shot. And then I can go through just like any other blog post. I can start to edit it. I can make it sound human. I can put my own spin on it. I can make it sound like it came directly from me, even though HubSpot helped me get the outline in place. It helped me get the general structure in place. Now I get to go through and make it sound like it's more human, like I sat down and wrote the entire thing. And then you can also see here, anytime you have a rich text field like this in HubSpot, when you're creating something in a blog post editor, in a social editor, or elsewhere, on your keyboard, you can hit / or a lot of times you can simply put your cursor in the middle of text, highlight text, whatever it may be. You'll see that little pink asterisk show up. That's your cue that HubSpot's AI is ready to help you. And you can see in this instance with our intro paragraph, I want to edit that first sentence. I want to see what HubSpot can do for me. So it can help me apply my brand voice. In this instance, it wasn't set, so it can't help me. I can also have it help me rewrite the highlighted section, expand the highlighted section, shorten it, or change the tone entirely. So any customization really that I want to make, or again, I can go through and just edit it live myself. A little addendum here, a bonus, if you will. This isn't necessarily part of the, it's part of Content Hub, but not part of the content agent. I wanted to give an honorable mention to the Content Remix tool. This is one of my absolute favorite tools I've ever seen ever. I remember the first time I saw it last year, I shouted holy expletive here in the middle of the office because I thought it was so cool what it can do, and it's only gotten even better since then. So any piece of content that we create, that we have, be it a 10x pillar page, a landing page, an email, a single image, or something else, we can now feed to HubSpot in the content remix tool. We essentially upload it. It can be an online document or an offline document. So even a PDF that we have stored locally on our computer, we upload it to HubSpot. It's going to analyze what that document is, who it's speaking to, some of the key facets about that document. And then HubSpot's content remix tool will help us create derivative works based on that content. So you can see in our example here, I've uploaded just a test piece of software or a test piece of content. And I've selected a few different things for it to help me create. We can select up to 6 pieces of derivative work. So I have 3 blog posts, 1 image, and 2 emails selected for it to create for me based on that. It does its magic, and you can see across the bottom there that we have a blog post, an image, an email, each one of those ready to be fully edited by me, my team, your team, whoever it is, so that it sounds exactly like we wrote it. It adheres to all of our own best practices that we set internally, marketing best practices set externally, and that it is ready for whatever platform it's going to be published to. And if you haven't noticed, something that I think is just wildly, wildly, wildly awesome, under each one of those pieces of derivative work, you have that little plus button, so you can create even more. So for example, if you have a 10x pillar page, maybe you want to create a few blog posts around it, an image and an email. After HubSpot helps you create each one of those assets, you can go through then and have HubSpot help you create a few social posts for LinkedIn, for Twitter/X, for Facebook, for each one of those blog posts. Again, ready for you and your team to edit, put your own spin on, put your brand voice into if you don't have that currently set in HubSpot, and get published live, greatly helping you scale content production and media management. You're muted, Vicky.
There was a quick question that came through related to Content Remix, if you wanted to tackle that one. Is that available to those who have Marketing Hub, but not Content Hub?
I believe it's unique to Content Hub right now.
Alrighty, so moving along to Breeze Intelligence. So like Zach mentioned earlier, Breeze is kind of this umbrella term for all things AI with HubSpot. But specifically, if you do hear the term Breeze Intelligence, HubSpot is really talking about 3 specific features or tools within HubSpot. So we'll review those today. Those are going to be data enrichment, form shortening, and also the buyer intent tool. Starting off with data enrichment. So you may be familiar with other third-party tools that offer data enrichment like ZoomInfo or Apollo, other platforms like that. But when we talk about data enrichment through Breeze, this is actually enrichment that's going to be happening right within your HubSpot portal without the need to connect to another tool. It is powered by HubSpot. I should mention that when we talk about data enrichment and form shortening, these are tools that would require the purchase of a Breeze Intelligence credit pack. So essentially the way that works is you would purchase a pack of credits. Those can be purchased in hundreds, thousands, or 10,000s if you have a large volume. But essentially each credit that there is, that would give you the ability to enrich one record, either a contact record or a company record. When we talk about enrichment for contact records, the criteria for that record would be that the email address housed for that record would have to be a business email address. If you have a ton of free email domains in your system, the data enrichment would not work if you have a Gmail or a Hotmail or something like that in your system. For company enrichment, the criteria for enrichment would be having a company domain name, and that is how the data enrichment database would be searching and looking for properties to update for your records. You may have noticed on your individual records that there's a new tab called Intelligence in the center section of your cards for contacts and companies. So that'll be basically your go-to to see if any enrichment data is available, what that might be, and also give you the option to actually enrich right there from the record. One feature that I think is really cool is that we also have the option to see what our enrichment coverage is for a set of contacts or companies in HubSpot. So in the example here of the screenshot on the right, we could highlight a list of certain contacts or companies and check the enrichment coverage. So that's going to tell us how much data is available for this set list of records before we actually take that step to enrich and utilize those Breeze credits. When we talk through the different ways that we can enrich records, I think we have a lot of unique ways to be able to control that now. One option would be to toggle the setting on to automatically enrich records. So as net new contacts or companies come into the system, this feature would automatically enrich as long as the contact has a business email and the company has a domain. One thing to be considerate of if you do have automatic enrollment turned on would be to take a close eye or keep a close look on the number of credits that you're using. Specifically, if you have integrations connected or if you do a lot of manual imports that generate new records, you may want to just keep a close eye on how many credits you're using because in the case that you go over your tier limit, HubSpot would push you up to the next tier credit level. If you aren't interested in the automatic enrollment, you can always choose to enrich records manually directly from a contact record or potentially even from the index page like a saved view or a list within HubSpot. One of the other newer ways that you can choose to enrich would be through a workflow action. So maybe the automatic enrichment is a little bit scary. You could choose the workflow action and be really specific on what those criterias or triggers are for your contacts and companies so that only records that you want to enrich are truly enriched. And lastly, the other setting that's available is to continuously enrich records. So if that toggle is turned on, HubSpot would continuously look for that set of properties if new data is available and just automatically push that new value if it is available in the enrichment database. Next one is form shortening. So this one is also going to be an item that requires a purchase of the Breeze Intelligence credits. And what this one does when it's turned on in your portal is give you the ability for certain forms to turn on form shortening. So basically it's going to start off your form by only showing the email address field in your form. So in this case, I came to a form and I filled out my email address. Then it automatically populates properties that I've built into my form. And it's going to, in the back end, check the enrichment database to see if any information is available. So we had a bit of fun testing this internally. Turns out that HubSpot doesn't know who I am. I'm still a nobody. They don't know my name or location based on my work email address. So I would have to fill in first name, last name, city, and state. But on the other hand, let's say Josh comes to our form and he types in his email address. Everybody knows Josh. HubSpot knows Josh. So Josh doesn't have to fill out any more forms. He just gets to click submit, and that's all. So just a really cool way to reduce the number of form fields on your forms and also increase your conversion rates. And lastly here, we have buyer intent. So buyer intent is actually what we were just talking about earlier, Andrea. Basically, buyer intent is going to be a listing of companies based on their IP addresses that have hit your website and have searched and viewed different pages on your site. As far as the information available, it does pull in essentially all of the companies visiting your site, and it gives you the ability to actually drill down to see which page views they're looking at and how many page views have happened as well. I think some of the newer features and really helpful features within the buyer intent tool are the addition of being able to drill down to your target market and also set your intent criteria. So not only is HubSpot going to give you this big list of companies, but you can also tell HubSpot what your target market is. So we can define that by certain industries, number of employees, or a handful of other company properties in the system. So we're teaching HubSpot, these are our target markets and these are the ones that we want to focus on. And then similar for intent criteria, we can tell HubSpot which page views, or maybe it's a certain number of page views that we consider a high intent or taking action to where we know that they're interested. So in the combination of target market and intent criteria, I think this does a really good job of helping you prioritize your leads and really focusing your outreach on people who are already engaging and interested in your company. There are a few additional settings that we have in the buyer intent tool. So, maybe a big listing of companies is not super helpful. You want to drill down and get to a more specific list of companies hitting the site. We can now utilize just your standard company lists within HubSpot and add those as filters into our buyer intent results. And on the flip side, we can also do the same with exclusions. So perhaps you want to exclude your internal traffic or exclude competitor traffic, things like that. We can also add those exclusions based on lists. And then once you have all of your filters set the way that you want to use them or see them day to day, we can even save a view. So similar to how you save views for contacts, companies, or deals, we can save that view for the buyer intent tool. And that's just something that you can come in every day and take a look at without having to reinvent the wheel every day and set those settings. And lastly, when we have the saved views created, you can also set up recurring email digests so that it just comes right to your inbox daily, weekly, monthly, whatever cadence you'd like to see that information. You don't have to actually go look for it in HubSpot if you want it to come to you. And as far as the actions that we can take once we have our saved views and our prioritized leads, if we want to drill down to any specific company that we see in the results, we can click the little eyeball icon, and that will show us which page views those companies have visited and the number of page views. It won't give you specific contact information. The only time that would be true would be if a contact is already in your system. We can also add these companies to our CRM. So if these are companies that we have never added to HubSpot, we can do that in bulk right from the buyer intent tool, or we could potentially add them to static lists. If you use lists to help route your leads or assign ownership, we can add to static lists. And we can also even enroll in workflows. So maybe we have a workflow set up to automatically set property values or route to salespeople. We can automatically enroll those companies right from the buyer intent tool as well. Back to you, Zach.
You can jump to the next slide, Nicola. There we go. So like I touched on at the very beginning of this, there are a lot of other areas where AI is beginning to permeate through HubSpot. It doesn't just stop at the Breeze Intelligence with agents or with Copilot. Instead, as I mentioned, I'm pretty sure that everyone on this call has been using HubSpot in the past couple months, has likely interacted with some of the AI tools in some way, shape, or form. So there's things like the AI summaries that Vicky touched on earlier that can help summarize what's going on with a specific contact record, specific company record, deal record. It can help lend context to sales reps, to service reps, to marketing folk, or just a general CRM admins, especially if you have longer sales cycles, people coming back to re-engage with you years or even months after initial engagement. So you don't have to hunt through, a slew of emails to try to figure out what was discussed, when it was discussed, where you left things off. HubSpot can now support you with that. The generalized writing support that I touched on earlier. So if you are still creating a blog post manually, fully in your portal, if you are still creating all of your social posts manually, take a look at the little AI shortcuts that I mentioned, / in your keyboard, or look for those little Breeze stars wherever they're in HubSpot. Try not to shy away from them. They can really help out with some writing support, at least expedite things a little bit. The report generator, this, I think, Vicky, you said that this is probably one of your favorite tools now. This one is really becoming one of my favorite as well. When we first saw this a couple months back, it was great at getting you 30, 40, 50, 60% of the way to a usable report. But now we can go into HubSpot. I used this just last week asked a plain text question of some sales data, and it generated the full report for me that was immediately usable. These tools are rapidly improving to the point where they need a little prompting from us to actually give us valuable and useful information. Workflow generation, another big tool. So anybody who's had to create any complex workflows or even workflows in general in HubSpot knows that sometimes they can be an absolute pain in the butt to create. With HubSpot now in plain text, you can explain the type of trigger or enrollment criteria that you're looking for different objects. It can help you determine and actually create those specific enrollment criteria. And it doesn't just stop at that. Following that, you can go through and just explain to it what you want the workflow to do. Different logic levels that it needs to be aware of, different paths that you want different users to take for different criteria, and it can now help you start creating all that automatically. We touched on the blog topic idea generator as well for anybody who's doing content creation in-house, and there is a whole lot more that we just can't properly service on a meeting like this. And again, if you have any questions, please let us know.
That was awesome. Thank you, Zach and Vicky, for all of your insights and information there. I know we had quite a few questions come on through, so I can go ahead and start to look through some of these. Just looking at the chat right now. I know some of them have been answered already, so thank you, Josh and Vicky, for jumping in on those. I see one come in from Ed that says, are all the features available in all versions of HubSpot or only HubSpot Marketing Hub or Sales Hub, etc.?
So as far as a lot of the agents, they're going to be hub specific. So the social agent for a Marketing Hub Pro and Enterprise, prospecting agent for Sales Pro and Enterprise, customer agent for Service Pro and Enterprise, and content agent for Content Pro and Enterprise.
The Copilot would be available to all plans and subscriptions. Breeze Intelligence credits would be able to be purchased with any plan as well, but the buyer intent tool does not require the intelligence credits. That should be available in all portals.
For all the more features, some of those that we mixed in there had been discussed earlier on in there in the presentation. So things like, let me pull it up here. The writing support you should have access to in all hubs and portals, at least to some extent, to help you create simple posts. It's just the keyboard shortcut that you can look for there. Same thing with the report generator. The blog topic idea generator is actually an offline HubSpot tool that you can access just with a quick Google search as well.
Awesome. All right. Another question that we had come through was lead scoring versus buyer intent. Could you guys break that down a little bit for the audience here?
Yeah, those are still going to be two separate things. Buyer intent is really a way to help you prioritize potential leads that are already visiting your site, people that you can see are visiting certain pages. But lead scoring is still going to be more based on identifying, what is that criteria to potentially hand off to sales, or what is that criteria to pass that lead down through the system. So building out lead scoring and building out buyer intent will be two separate things.
Right. And I see one that says form shortening requires 1 Breeze AI credit if the enrichment is available. Can you touch on that a little bit too, Vicky?
Yeah. So if your form only includes contact properties like email, first name, last name, that would just require 1 credit per form submission. But in the case that you have company properties that you're asking on that same form, it could potentially use 2 credits. So 1 for the contact and 1 for the company record. Just depends on the properties or questions that you're asking on the form.
Cool. And for the customer agent, is there an auto transparency feature for disclosures? Example, I'm an AI assistant. What does that look like?
I believe that is set out of the box automatically for it to disclose that it is an AI assistant. And then you can also customize the message that the user sees when it first shows up to them.
Perfect.
There was also a question Ed asked about using lead feeder or deal front or equivalent services, and this is related to the buyer intent tool, where It brings up companies that were looking at your website, how many pages they viewed, so on and so forth. So from my experience, it might eliminate the need for those. But the other thing that I have found from experience is that uses a reverse IP lookup to say it's this IP address and this company is tied to that IP address. When we look at the databases of which these tools know, Leadfeeder might have a different database that is going to have some overlap with the Breeze lookup, but they're not necessarily going to be exactly the same. It's possible that Leadfeeder has an expanded IP lookup database, so you might return more results, or vice versa. Potentially Breeze has a larger IP lookup, so you're going to return more. What I would recommend doing is testing that to see if your sales team is utilizing it, which is providing more or better results.
All right. Then Connor brought up a good point with the content agent, AI content in SEO scoring / ranking, any negative effects using AI generated content. Zach, I know that's something that you've talked about a bit, so if you want to field that one.
Yeah, we have big feelings on fully AI generated content and the impact on SEO. In short, don't do it. If you're going to use AI to help you generate content, use it to help you generate some main points and potentially an outline, but never should a fully AI article, blog post, news article, social post, or anything else go live. Always make sure it has human revisions, that it's factually correct, that there's zero hallucination, and that it sounds human and helpful, like it was written by a human for a human.
Perfect. Yeah, I'd say too, just doing some extra checks on the keywords that you're using, making sure you're doing your due diligence to make sure that those are valuable ones that you're feeding the content as well.
That's a good point. It's not going to be doing the keyword research for you. So you'll need to make sure that you've done that keyword research ahead of time.
Connor asked another good question. Sorry for jumping in here.
Michaela.
I think Vicky would be best to answer this, but I think it's worth noting that we have queued questions that can be on forms, which helps for progressive profiling. So if they answered their job title, you can replace that in a form with something else. This is slightly different than the form shortener. So I'll turn it over to Vicky to explain the difference there, but I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah, so the form shortening is only going to be available in your account if you have purchased a Breeze credit pack. It is related to actually using enrichment credits. So you wouldn't be able to see that if you don't have that purchase. But if you do, essentially it's a toggle that you can turn on in the back end of your account. And that gives you the ability to, on an individual form level, decide which forms you might want to use that shortening feature on. You wouldn't have to use them on all of them.
And Connor, you can still utilize the queued questions in your example because they filled out a form on one page. Your HubSpot instance now knows this because they've given it to you. You can remove that question from the next time they submit a form, whereas the one that Vicky's talking about, they may never have even engaged with your website before, and you could ask 30 questions on your form, and maybe Breeze knows all of these, and it would eliminate all of those questions for them, even the first time they visit.
Awesome. And Destiny had a great question too over in the Q&A. Any insights into using the Breeze content and agent tools with technical knowledge like product manuals, white papers, etc.? She's hit a wall with most of the AI tools around their understanding of technical engineering concepts relevant to the industry, even when they give them the resources. So any advice for her on that?
Advice as far as just test it and see if it can answer the technical questions. You can upload your any of the PDFs or ebooks or anything else that you have, and then within HubSpot, you should be able to test it, start kind of grilling it, asking it those tough questions, and see how it performs.
Zach, does it work pretty similarly to other AI tools like ChatGPT or Claude, where the more you teach it, the more educated it is about your scenario, that it answers better questions?
I think it's easier to use than something like ChatGPT long term, since you can very granularly say, use this specific thing as as part of your knowledge repository, but exclude this other thing. So if it is beginning to hallucinate, give you incorrect answers, you can go through and start excluding those hallucinations.
All right. Also wondering if Breeze AI is available in the starter version of HubSpot.
Something like Copilot is going to be available with all Hubs tiers, but then each one of the agents would require a Pro or Enterprise subscription.
How about Breeze Intelligence with the credits? Vicky, is that available on starter?
I believe that one is available on starter. Yes.
And if anyone does have questions about adding Breeze to their HubSpot, please reach out to any of us. Can't promise any deals, but we could see what we could do.
Absolutely. And then another cost-based question, how much is one credit?
I just responded with some numbers there before I forgot. So $30 per month if you're looking at the packs of 100, and those can be purchased in multiple packs too. So if you need 200 credits, it'd be the $60 per month. And then when you bump up to the 1,000 credit tier, it goes to $150 a month. And if you have a high volume, you could look at the 10,000 credit tier for $700 a month.
And everyone here, or for the most part, I guess, is a HubSpot user, so you're probably familiar with marketing contacts and the marketing contact tiers. I'd say that's the most similar pricing example is of how it's structured. Like once you move up a contact tier, that's where you are. Is that correct, Vicky? So like if I enrich 200 credits one month, now I'm at that additional tier. I'm no longer at the 100 credits per month.
That is correct. So like I mentioned earlier, if you do have or choose to turn on auto enrichment, definitely something to be aware of. So if you do hit that tier, you may or may not be able to go back down if it was an accident.
Connor asked which API Breeze is built on. Last I knew, it was OpenAI, but Zach, do you have any other info on that?
I don't know offhand, I'm sorry.
If I'm not mistaken, it's OpenAI. They may have expanded to use other LLMs or other APIs, but that's what Dharmesh told me in a personal conversation, one-to-one. Nobody here knows who Dharmesh is except for probably me and the other HubSpot nerds.
I know who you're talking about, Josh, so that helps at all. I did switch to the last slide just so that you guys could, if you do have any questions, grab Zach or Vicky's contact information, or reach out to Josh or I, or really anyone at P80 if you have any additional questions, or if you want to see about adding these to your HubSpot portal and making some upgrades. So again, thank you all for coming. Were there any other questions? I'm not seeing any come through, but feel free to unmute, or I'm happy to read them, although you might be able to say it better yourself. So not kicking you out here. If there are any other questions, please bring them up. But otherwise, thank you so much for your time here. I do see one coming in. The presentation will be available. We'll be sending that out after this. Well, once it loads. Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
I did have one thing kind of unrelated to this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could I know for whatever reason I never get these invites to these, and I want to like do more of them. So
Yeah.
I didn't know if that's something I need to do internally in my HubSpot, or if it's like a list or something.
I'll take a look at the list and make sure that you're added to these coming up. We do want a quarter, so I want to make sure you get there.
Yeah.
Connor, do you ever mark us as spam?
Only you.
I was
That's
gonna say
probably why
they
you
should
don't
have
get it
come
then.
from me. So like, we've been in. Yeah, I know you've answered some of my emails before. So
Considering I talk to you guys pretty much on a weekly basis, I would say no, but I don't know why I don't get the invites.
And you should actually be getting invites from two places, because you're in the the Bevy program, which is what HubSpot uses to host these, and you're in our database. So we'll find out why.
All right. Cool. Yeah, I looked too. I don't know, but yeah, that was great. This is cool. I'm excited to see what we can utilize it in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you could make it.
Thanks for the great questions.
They were very informative answers, so appreciate it.
I still see some people other than note takers are still here. I don't know if they went and had lunch and forgot to sign off.
I was giving everyone a few minutes to see if anyone was just sticking around to ask a final question, but I think we're probably good. I'm going to go ahead and end here. But again, anyone who's still listening and to the note takers, thank you for your attendance as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye
Thank you,
now.
everybody.